Many people believe that success is a matter of luck, of connections, of external circumstances. They think that if they were born in the right place, into the right family, with just the right resources, then yes, they would achieve something great. But if not, they believe they are condemned to live an ordinary life. What they fail to understand is that success does not begin on the outside, it begins on the inside. I have learned it over decades of work and research that there are mental laws as precise and as predictable as the physical laws of the universe, laws that govern your thinking, your emotions, and your decisions. When you learn to live in harmony with these laws, everything changes. Your focus sharpens, your discipline strengthens, and your vision becomes unstoppable. A mind that is aligned with solid principles becomes your greatest ally, your most powerful asset. It doesn't matter what your past looks like, and it doesn't matter what your current environment is. If you train your mind, your life will respond. So, the question is not whether you can have success. The real question is, are you willing to think the way that successful men and women think? Because when you do, the results become inevitable. The first mental law of success is the law of cause and effect. This law is the iron law of human destiny, and it states that for every effect in your life, there's a specific cause or series of causes. Everything that happens in your life is a direct result of something you have thought, decided, or done. There are no accidents. There is no luck. There are only causes that produce effects. This is one of the most powerful truths you can ever accept, but it is also one of the most difficult, because it forces you to stop blaming. It forces you to stop waiting for things to change on their own, and it forces you to look at your life with brutal honesty and say, if this is happening, it is because something in me allowed it, attracted it, or sustained it. And that awareness, though it may sting at first, is what sets you free. Because if you created the results you currently have, you also have the power to create new, better results, ones that are more aligned with what you truly desire. For years, I myself lived under the illusion that success was a matter of chance or external conditions. I would look at men who were succeeding, men who were building great businesses and living wonderful lives, and I thought they must have something special that I lacked. But I was mistaken. What they had was clarity, focus, and constant, disciplined action. It wasn't about charisma, or contacts, or privilege. It was about cause and effect. They thought with discipline, and therefore they acted with direction. They acted with direction, and therefore they achieved results. It was a straight line, a logical progression that I had been ignoring in my own life. When I began to consciously apply this law to my own life, everything changed radically. I stopped complaining and started taking complete responsibility. I stopped waiting for something outside of me to change and began sowing the right seeds within myself. Every thought I entertained, every habit I cultivated, every decision I made was a cause. And I knew, with absolute certainty, that if the cause was good, the effect would eventually have to be good as well. The human mind is a creative tool. It creates based on what it holds. If you hold thoughts of fear, you will create results dominated by anxiety. If you hold thoughts of clarity, you will create order. If you hold thoughts of value and contribution, you will act with power, and each of those actions will generate a corresponding effect. Therefore, the most important question you can ask yourself at the beginning of each day is not, what is going to happen today? But rather, what thoughts am I cultivating that will generate my results? That is a question that transforms your entire focus. If you are not satisfied with your life, the root of the problem is not in the world. It is in your mind. And if you change your mind, you will change your world. But be warned, this law also demands coherence. It is not enough to think one thing and do another. It is not enough to desire something while consistently acting in the opposite direction. If you want success, you must act in a way that is aligned with that desire. This means saying no to things that do not move you forward. It means choosing the difficult path when it is the right one. It means sustaining habits that may not provide immediate pleasure, but bring you closer to the results you want to see. And yes, it is uncomfortable, but it is also liberating, because when you understand that you are in command, that you are the primary cause of your own destiny, fear begins to dissolve. You are no longer dependent on luck. You are dependent on your focus, your effort, and your mentality. And that, believe me, is more than enough to build an extraordinary life. The law of cause and effect does not just give you responsibility, it gives you power. The power to redesign your path, the power to begin again, the power to multiply your results. It does not matter where you are today, and it does not matter how many times you have failed in the past. If you begin to think differently, if you choose to act differently, you are planting new causes, and the effects will come. Perhaps not today, perhaps not tomorrow, but they will come, because this law never, ever fails. The second mental law of success is the law of belief. What you believe, with deep conviction, becomes your reality. Your beliefs act like filters on your perception of the world. You do not see the world as it is. You see the world as you are. And if your beliefs are limited, your life will be limited as well. This is because no one can live a reality that they do not believe is possible. No one can achieve something that, deep down, they feel they do not deserve, are not capable of sustaining, or that doesn't fit with their self-concept. Therefore, the first step toward true success is not to act differently. It is to believe differently. It is to reprogram the invisible operating system that directs all of your decisions, your internal convictions. For a long time, I held belief that was sabotaging me without me even realizing it. These were beliefs inherited from my childhood, from society, from past experiences. Money is the root of all evil. I'm just not good with numbers. I always quit things halfway through. To be successful, you have to sacrifice your personal life. And while I didn't say these things out loud, they were there, operating in the background, dictating my behavior. They were limiting me without my knowledge. Because if you believe something is dangerous, you will avoid it. If you believe you are incapable, you won't even try. If you believe something isn't for people like you, you will reject it, even if the opportunity appears right in front of your eyes. This is why, so often, it is not the world that denies you entry. It is you who will not allow yourself to open the door. When I finally understood this, I made one of the most important decisions of my life. I decided to examine every single one of my beliefs and ask myself firmly, does this belief serve me or does it limit me? Does this idea empower me or does it hold me back? Do I believe this because it is true, or simply because it was repeated to me so many times that I accepted it without question? And in doing so, I discovered something shocking. A large part of what I believed to be true was not my own. It was not truth at all. It was a story I had accepted without challenge. And when I changed that story, my actions changed. When my actions changed, my results changed. It wasn't magic. It was mental house cleaning. It was conscious reprogramming. It was choosing thoughts that strengthen me, not weaken me. Once you begin to replace limiting beliefs with empowering ones, your entire life begins to reorganize itself. If you believe you can learn anything with enough discipline, you will dare to face bigger challenges. If you believe you deserve abundance, you will stop sabotaging financial opportunities. If you believe your past does not define your future, you will stop carrying the weight of guilt that no longer belongs to you. Your mind will begin to work for you, not against you, because there is no longer a hidden force sabotaging you from within. Now, there's direction, there's focus, there's coherence between what you think, what you do, and what you desire. But this law also demands responsibility, because you cannot change your life if you are unwilling to confront your own ideas. You cannot evolve if you insist on preserving old, outdated thoughts. You must have the courage to face yourself and say, this thing that I believe is keeping me from who I want to become. And once you accept that, you must actively replace it with a more powerful truth, one that empowers you, one that sustains you, one that pushes you forward. The law of belief is unbreakable. What you believe becomes your experience. So today, I ask you, what are you believing about yourself that is limiting you? And what could you begin to believe that would completely change the way you live? The change you are searching for does not begin on the outside. It begins with what you hold as true in the depths of your mind. And if you dare to change that, there are no limits to what you can achieve. The third mental law of success is a law of expectation. Whatever you expect with confidence tends to manifest in your life. This is not about magical thinking or empty illusions. It is about a powerful form of mental programming. Your mind and body act in accordance with what you anticipate. If you expect failure, you will act with fear and hesitation. You will make insecure decisions, and your energy will be weak. If you expect success, you will act with determination and confidence. Your body language will be firm, and you will attract better opportunities and more favorable responses from others. Expectations don't just affect your emotional state. They directly affect your behavior, and your behavior creates your results. I discovered this for the first time when I noticed how I was sabotaging myself without even realizing it. I would prepare for a presentation, a project, or a sales call, but deep inside, I was thinking, this probably won't go well. And even though I went through the motions, a part of me had already given up before I even started. That negative expectation shaped the tone of my voice, my posture, and even the way I responded to questions. Of course, the results were mediocre, which only served to confirm my original negative belief. But it wasn't reality confirming my vision. It was my vision creating that reality. It was me sabotaging my own potential, simply because I didn't expect the best from myself. And that was a turning point, when I understood that what I secretly expected was far more powerful than what I said out loud. Your expectation creates direction. It's like a silent magnet that organizes your decisions, your actions, and even your emotions. If you expect to be strong, you will act with firmness. If you expect others to respect you, you will express yourself with clarity and self-respect. If you expect this year to be the best year of your life, you will actively look for opportunities. You will be more alert. You will say yes to things that you might have ignored in the past. It's not magic. It's focus. It's mindset. It's using your mind as an ally instead of living under the tyranny of your fears and negative assumptions. This is why expectation is not optional. You are always expecting something. The important question is whether you are doing it consciously or by default. This is where so many people fail. They expect very little of themselves, not because they are incapable, but because they have had past experiences that made them distrustful. They failed once, and now they expect it to happen again. They were rejected, and now they expect to be ignored. They had a bad outcome, and now they believe that result is a constant. But the past has no right to dictate your future expectations. The only thing that should define what you expect is your commitment to your own growth. Because if you are doing things differently, if you are acting with more awareness, if you are changing your habits, then you have every right to expect better results, not out of arrogance, but out of alignment. Of course, expectation must also be accompanied by action. It's not enough to simply wish for something to happen if you are not working for it. But action without expectation is cold, mechanical, and soulless. When you unite the two, a powerful, positive expectation and disciplined, consistent action, you create a mental force field that makes you unstoppable. Your energy changes, your language changes, and your environment begins to change because you are no longer asking for permission from life. You are walking with authority, not with arrogance, but with direction, with the quiet confidence of someone who has already decided they are going to advance and that they deserve what they seek. So, ask yourself, what are you expecting from yourself, from your days, from your journey? Because if your expectations are weak, your results will be weak as well. But if you decide, today, to expect with conviction a stronger, more focused, more powerful life, then everything within you will begin to move in that direction. And that is where the real change begins. The fourth mental law of success is the law of attraction. This law states that you are a living magnet. You inevitably attract into your life the people, circumstances, and results that are in harmony with your dominant thoughts. Your recurring emotions, your overall attitude toward life, all of it emits a frequency, a vibration, that unerringly attracts that which is on the same wavelength. We are not talking about cheap mysticism here. We are talking about a mental principle that repeats itself over and over again in the lives of all people. When you are focused, disciplined, grateful, and committed, you begin to notice how life starts to respond with signals, opportunities, and connections that didn't appear before. It's not that they weren't there, it's that you weren't there. You were not vibrating at the level of consciousness that you are now cultivating. I lived for many years surrounded by negative people, trapped in repetitive situations that seemed to hold me back time and time again. I said I wanted to move forward, but my mind remained focused on fear, on complaint, on doubt, and that is what I attracted. It wasn't because the world was conspiring against me, but because my own energy was not coherent with what I supposedly desired. It was only when I began to take total control of my internal dialogue that I saw real change. I stopped focusing on what I lacked and began to focus intensely on what I was building. I began to repeat affirmations of power, to visualize my goals with clarity, and to act as if I were already living that new life. And then, without any grand announcement, things began to align. Not everything at once, not everything perfectly, but everything became clearer, more possible, more connected. The law of attraction reminds you that you cannot continue to hold thoughts of scarcity while desiring abundance. You cannot continue to feed doubt while asking for confidence. You cannot vibrate with resignation and expect to live with passion. Your environment is a mirror. The quality of your life directly reflects the quality of your most frequent thoughts. And if you want to attract something different, you must first become someone different, not in appearance, but in depth, in your daily attitude, in how you talk to yourself, in how you interpret your challenges, in how you hold your energy in the midst of chaos. Now, this is where many people get confused. To attract does not mean to wait passively. To attract means to prepare, to act from your vision, to demonstrate to the universe with every single one of your actions that you are ready to receive what you say you want. Because if you say you want success but you cannot sustain a simple daily routine, you are rejecting what you ask for. If you say you want respect but you do not even respect yourself, you are blocking what you desire. If you say you want growth but you are unwilling to step out of your comfort zone, you are stopping the flow of everything you could possibly attract. So today, I want to make you a clear and direct invitation. Start living from the level of consciousness that the life you want to build demands. Do not wait to have the results to feel worthy. Feel worthy now and act in coherence with that feeling. If this message has resonated with you, if something inside you knows that this is a moment to stop waiting and start activating, then subscribe to this channel. Here, you will find the tools, strategies, and principles to continue elevating your mindset. And if you want to make this commitment real, write in the comments below. Today, I begin to live as the person I want to become. Because that sentence is not just symbolic, it is a declaration of war against mediocrity. Remember, you do not attract what you want. You attract what you are. You attract what you practice. You attract what you hold with intention. And the more you become a focused, disciplined, grateful, and courageous person, the more life comes to you. Because life does not give more to the one who wants it. It gives more to the one who is ready. And you, if you decide to be, can start attracting everything that once seemed impossible, because you will no longer be the same person. You will be someone aligned, someone who no longer asks, but lives. And from that place, everything begins to change. The fifth mental law of success is a law of correspondence. This law states profound truth. As within, so without. Your outer world is a direct reflection of your inner world. If your life is in chaos, your mind is in chaos. If your relationships are fragmented, your emotions are disconnected. If your results are weak, your focus is also weak. This law can seem brutal at first because it forces us to accept that we are not victims of our environment. We are its origin. But at the same time, it is a law that gives you the most power because it tells you that you do not need to change the world to change your life. You only need to change yourself. When I began to truly apply this law, everything clicked into place. I realized that every area of my life that was stuck was a signal, not a curse. It wasn't an injustice. It was a clear sign that something inside of me was misaligned. My financial situation reflected my lack of mental structure and my beliefs about money. My physical health showed my disconnection from self-discipline and self-respect. My personal relationships were a mirror of my own level of self-esteem and communication skills. Nothing was a coincidence. Everything was a correspondence. At first, yes, that hurt because I realized that it was I, unintentionally, who had allowed so many things to remain broken. But that very same revelation was my point of liberation, because if I had created it, then I could also rebuild it. The law of correspondence forces you to look inward with unflinching honesty, to stop justifying what is happening on the outside and start asking, what part of me is creating this? What thoughts are sustaining this result? What emotions am I ignoring that are affecting my decisions? Because the world is not your enemy. The world is simply responding to your dominant energy. And if you want the world to change, you need your mind to change first. It is that simple and that challenging. From that moment forward, I began to work every single day on aligning my inner world, not from a place of perfectionism, but from a place of coherence. I started having more sincere conversations with myself. I began to observe my emotions instead of repressing them, to question my thoughts instead of blindly obeying them, to train my focus instead of letting it wander. I understood that every small internal adjustment was like turning a dial that gradually transformed the external reflection. And I saw it happen. My relationships improved because I started to communicate with more truth and empathy. My income increased because I started to act from a place of confidence, not scarcity. My body responded because I began to treat it with respect, not neglect. This law is demanding, yes, but it is also fair because it doesn't take your power away. It gives it back to you. It tells you, you are the cause, you are the starting point, and everything you see on the outside is a clue as to what you need to work on inside. And that is the kind of truth that transforms, because you are no longer waiting for your boss to change, for your partner to mature, for the economy to improve, or for the environment to favor you. You are working on yourself. You are refining your mind. You are strengthening your character. You are elevating your frequency. And when that happens, you don't need to force anything. The world simply begins to respond on its own. So today, I offer you a proposal. Instead of continuing to ask for things on the outside to fall into place, start putting yourself in order. Organize your mind. Strengthen your character. Elevate your energy. Because when your inner world is solid, your outer world will reorganize itself to reflect it. The law of correspondence never fails. It is always active. And when you use it in your favor, you don't just transform your results, you transform your reality from the inside out forever. The sixth mental law of success is the law of control. This law states that you feel positive about yourself to the degree to which you feel you are in control of your own life. The more you feel you have control, the stronger, more stable, and happier you will be. Conversely, the less control you feel you have, the weaker, more anxious, and more lost you will become. This law changes everything because it confronts you with the root of true personal power, assuming total responsibility for your life. You do this not out of guilt, not to punish yourself, but because you know that as long as you continue to wait for someone or something else to change so that you can move forward, you will remain in chains. But when you understand that you are the one who directs your mind, your actions, and your decisions, you regain control, and with it, you regain your freedom. For years, I lived under the illusion that I had no choice. I felt I had to do what I was doing, that I had to accept what was given to me, that I couldn't say no, that I couldn't change direction, that I couldn't go after what I truly wanted. And that feeling weakened me. It made me feel like a victim of everything, of the economy, of my past, of my emotions, of other people. But the truth was, I did have a choice. I always had a choice. I was just afraid to use it, because using your power means accepting that there are no excuses. And that is frightening, because if there are no more excuses, there is no one left to blame. There is only you, standing in front of yourself. And that encounter, as uncomfortable as it may be, is the beginning of a powerful life. The law of control does not say that you can dominate everything that happens to you. It says that you can dominate your response to what happens. And that distinction changes everything. There are things you will not be able to avoid: rejection, failure, loss, setbacks. But you can control what you do with those things. You can control whether you learn or you give up, whether you react or you respond, whether you sink or you become stronger. This is not a skill that is acquired overnight. It is a decision that is practiced every single day. From the simplest things to the most complex, from choosing how to start your morning to deciding how to face a betrayal. It is all training. It is all construction of character. I began to notice that when I took control of my actions, my confidence grew. I no longer needed others to change for me to feel good. I no longer needed everything to go perfectly to keep moving forward, because I knew that no matter what happened, I would respond with direction, with strength, with focus. That inner security allowed me to advance without so much emotional baggage. I no longer walked in fear that everything would collapse. I walked with the knowledge that even if something failed, I had the internal tools to sustain myself. But I also understood that you cannot have control if you do not have structure. And this is where many people get lost. They want a life of freedom, but not an ordered life. They want to be in control, but they don't want discipline. That does not work, because control without structure is merely a wish. You need habits. You need a system. You need a routine that supports your purpose. Because control is not exercised in isolated moments. It is built in the daily repetition of conscious decisions. And if there is one thing you must remember from this law, it is this: every time you choose to procrastinate, to blame, to give in to what is easy, you are surrendering control of your life. But every time you choose to act from your vision, even when you don't feel like it, even when it's hard, you are reclaiming your power. You are reminding yourself that you are in charge, that your story is not written by circumstances, but by your ability to respond. Because that is what truly makes you strong. Not what happens to you, but what you decide to do with what happens to you. And when you live from that place, you don't just grow, you become indestructible. The seventh mental law of success is a law of concentration. This law states that whatever you focus on, whatever you dwell upon, expands in your life. What you think about repeatedly becomes stronger, more vivid, and more dominant in your experience. Therefore, if you focus your mind on your problems will grow. If you focus your mind on your excuses will multiply. But if you focus your mind on the solution, on the goal, on the action, your entire being will begin to mobilize in that direction. Your mind is like a lens. It can focus on what is missing, or it can focus on what you can build. And this is where the majority of people get lost. They live in a state of permanent distraction. Their attention jumps from one worry to another, from one stimulus to another, from one piece of mental noise to another. There is no focus, no direction. And then they say, "I can't seem to get ahead." But it is not a lack of ability. It is a lack of concentration. A scattered person can never build anything solid. They may have good ideas, they may have energy, they may have good intentions, but if they do not train their focus, their life will be diluted into 1,000 small urgencies, 1,000 distractions disguised as importance. I experienced this firsthand. For a long time, I would start projects with great enthusiasm, but I wouldn't finish anything. I would get excited about new ideas, but would abandon them as soon as the first wave of discomfort appeared. This made me feel frustrated, inconsistent, and weak. Until one day, I asked myself a simple question. What would happen if, for 30 days, I concentrated all of my energy on one single thing, one goal, one discipline, one focus? I did it, and what happened was revelatory. I made more progress in those few weeks than I had in the previous months. It wasn't because I had more time, but because I had more focus. I stopped wasting my attention on things that didn't add value. I protected my mind as a sacred resource that it is. Concentration is not an automatic skill. It is a daily decision. It is turning off what is unnecessary. It is saying no without guilt. It is establishing boundaries with your environment. It is mastering your impulse to respond to everything immediately. It is turning your time into a sacred space for construction. Because if you do not direct your attention, someone or something else will do it for you. Social media, the news, other people's dramas, your own automatic negative thoughts. If you allow these things to run your day, you don't just lose minutes, you lose opportunities, you lose energy, you lose your life. I also discovered that concentration is what gives depth to everything. You can have a superficial conversation, or you can have a transformative one. The difference is your presence. You can exercise in a distracted way, or you can do it with total intention. This doesn't just change the physical result, it changes your relationship with yourself. When you are fully present, every act becomes a ritual. It doesn't matter if you are writing, reading, walking, or eating. What matters is how you do it. The person who trains their concentration becomes magnetic. Their presence is felt. Their energy is palpable. Their work is distinguished. And if today you feel that your life is saturated, that your mind is disordered, that your energy is diluted, you do not need more motivation. You need more focus. You need to choose one thing, one goal, one habit, and concentrate on it with absolute discipline. Because when you focus your mind, you focus your power. And when you focus your power, there is nothing you cannot build. The eighth mental law of success is a law of controlled effort. This law holds that everything of value in life requires sustained work, but not just any kind of work. It requires effort that is focused, strategic, disciplined, and consistent. It's not about doing more for the sake of doing more. It's not about filling your calendar with tasks or living a busy life as a symbol of progress. True success is born from intelligent effort, the kind that is repeated day after day with intention, the kind that is aligned with a clear goal, a firm purpose, and a trained mind. Because exerting effort without direction will exhaust you, but exerting effort with focus will transform you. I learned this law when I realized I was working hard. Yes, but without any structure. I was demanding, pushing, and pressuring myself, but I wasn't advancing. Why? Because my actions were not aligned with a strategy. It was like rowing with all my might in a boat with no rudder. I was getting tired, but I wasn't getting anywhere. It was then that I understood that the key was not just to do more, but to do better. It was about analyzing my habits, evaluating my decisions, and optimizing my routines. Effort without consciousness is just another form of distraction. In contrast, when you do fewer things, but you do them well, with presence, with excellence, your life truly begins to move forward. This law also taught me something that few people want to accept. Real progress is slow. It is often not immediately visible. Sometimes you are planting seeds for weeks, months, even years, without seeing any tangible results. And it is at that point that most people give up. Not because they can't do it, but because they cannot tolerate the silence of invisible effort. But the person who understands this law knows that every repetition matters. Every day of practice adds up. Every correct decision, however small, builds character. And that character, over time, translates into solid, undeniable results. Because while others are looking for shortcuts, you are building an indestructible foundation. Controlled effort also requires emotional maturity. There will be days when you have no motivation. There will be days when everything seems to be against you. There will be days when your mind tells you, what's the point of continuing? And it is there that the committed person distinguishes himself from the temporary enthusiast. The enthusiast acts when he feels inspired. The disciplined person acts even when he feels nothing, because he knows he is not working for immediate pleasure. He is working for his vision. And that vision gives him direction. It gives him strength. It gives him purpose. If you ever find yourself wondering why you're not progressing as you'd like, don't punish yourself. Just ask yourself one question. Am I applying my effort with strategy, or am I just surviving with busyness? Am I repeating what is right, or just repeating what is familiar? There is a vast difference between being busy and being focused, between being tired and being committed, between being in motion and being in direction. And that difference shows up in your results, in your energy, and in your peace of mind. So today, I invite you to choose controlled effort. Stop moving out of anxiety and start acting from your center, from clarity, from commitment. You don't have to do everything. You have to do the right thing over and over again. Because success does not arrive from one day of extraordinary effort. It arrives from 1,000 days of ordinary effort, sustained with excellence. That is the real law, the one that few follow, the one that separates those who try from those who achieve. And you can follow it if you decide to act with intention, if you decide to sustain yourself through the discomfort, if you decide to honor your process. Because that is where, and only where, a successful person is forged. The 9th mental law of success is the law of dominant emotion. This law states that your life is shaped more by the emotions that you most frequently experience than by your logic. Your dominant emotion acts as a silent force that directs your behavior, your decisions, and therefore, your results. You can know many things. You can have vast knowledge. You can even have clear goals. But if your dominant emotions are fear, insecurity, frustration, or doubt, you will end up performing far below your capabilities. This is because emotion has the power to override logic if you do not learn to master it. When I discovered this law, I finally understood why. So many times, I failed to advance even though I knew exactly what I needed to do. It wasn't ignorance, it was fear. Fear of rejection, fear of making a mistake, fear of loss. And this fear was so subtle that it disguised itself as prudence, as being realistic, as waiting for the right moment. But the truth was, I was paralyzed by an emotion I did not know how to govern. And that emotion, though it didn't scream, dictated my every move. It kept me away from taking calculated risks. It made me doubt my own ideas, and it led me to self-sabotage real opportunities. It's not what you know that transforms your life. It's what you are capable of executing in the presence of intense emotions. The law of dominant emotion forces you to work on your emotional world as an essential part of success. It requires you to recognize which emotions inhabit your daily life. Do you live with enthusiasm or with apathy? With confidence or with fear? With gratitude or with a sense of lack? Because these emotions are not random. They are a reflection of your most frequent thoughts, of your mental habits, of your automatic interpretations of events. And if you do not change those patterns, you can continue to struggle on the outside while something is sabotaging you from within. It was then that I began to consciously train the emotion of certainty. And I'm not talking about arrogance. I'm talking about an inner certainty that said, whatever happens, I can handle it. That single emotion changed my posture, my way of speaking, my way of making decisions, because I no longer needed external guarantees. My confidence did not depend on the environment. It depended on my internal preparation. I also began to cultivate gratitude, not as a cliché, but as a daily, deliberate practice. And it was incredible to see how, by changing my dominant emotion, my entire energy transformed. People noticed it. Opportunities increased. My sense of direction became clearer. And here is a key insight. It is not about avoiding negative emotions. It is about not letting them govern you. You are going to feel fear. You are going to feel anger. You will have moments of doubt. The important thing is not what you feel for an instant, but what you choose to sustain. That is where character is born. That is where true personal power is formed, in your ability to choose your dominant emotion and hold it, even in the midst of chaos, even when nothing is perfect, even when no one else understands. So today, I ask you, what is your dominant emotion? What energy are you bringing to your work, to your relationships, to your personal process? Because if it is weakness, life will reflect situations that make you feel small. But if it is strength, determination, and focus, life will respond with challenges that make you grow, not retreat. And that is what you want. Not a life without problems, but a life in which your emotions are working for you, a life where you are the center, not the victim of your own ups and downs. And to get there, you need to train yourself mentally, emotionally, daily, because a man who masters his inner world masters his destiny. The 10th and most powerful mental law of success is the law of action. This law states that nothing happens until you act. It does not matter how much you know, how much you visualize, how much you plan, or how much you are inspired. If you do not take action, nothing changes. Action is a bridge between your inner world and your outer world. It is what turns your thoughts into reality, your dreams into results, your decisions into your legacy. This law is the most stark, but it is also the most transformative, because it puts you face to face with the truth that so many people avoid. Your life is not defined by what you feel or desire. It is defined by what you do. Period. Many people live trapped in the illusion that knowing is enough. They read books, they listen to talks, they make plans, they write down goals, but they do not act. And then they wonder why nothing ever changes. But knowledge without execution is merely mental entertainment. It is useless if you do not take it to the battlefield of your daily life. The only knowledge that transforms is a knowledge that you practice, that you put to the test, that you sustain even when it is uncomfortable. And that is the difference between the one who tries and the one who achieves, between the one who talks and the one who builds. I myself realized how many times I had used thinking as an excuse to not move. I would tell myself that it wasn't the right time yet, that I needed to understand more, that I had to prepare better. But the truth was, I was afraid. I was afraid of failing, afraid of doing it wrong, afraid that it wouldn't work. Until one day, I understood. I don't need to be ready. I need to act. Because it is in the action that doubts are clarified, that character is strengthened, that the path appears. And so I did it. I started without total certainty, without guarantees, with my hands trembling, yes, but with decision. And it was that decision that changed everything. The law of action also teaches you that every step counts. You don't have to do everything today, but you must do something today. Something that is aligned with your vision. Something that is a declaration of your commitment to your future. Every time you act with intention, you are molding your identity. You are training your mind to advance even without motivation. You are cultivating self-respect. And that respect, that self-confidence, is not achieved with affirmations. It is earned by acting, by following through, by proving to yourself that you can trust yourself, that you are capable of keeping your word, that you are a person who not only dreams, but also executes. If there is one thing I want to leave you with, it is this. You can study all the mental laws of success. You can understand them with great depth. You can feel that it all makes perfect sense. But if you do not take action, if you do not do something today, all of it vanishes. Knowledge that is not applied rots. It turns into frustration, into resentment, into that bitter feeling of knowing you could be more, but you didn't dare. So do it. Get up earlier. Finish that task. Break that habit. Make that call. Close that chapter. Declare that goal. Begin that project. Don't do it because you are inspired. Do it because you are decided. Do it because you understand that success is not given to the most intelligent, nor to the strongest, nor to the most fortunate. It is given to the one who acts, the one who moves, the one who does not wait to feel ready to begin, but begins in order to become strong. This is a final law, but it is also the one that activates all the others. Without action, there is no cause and effect. There is no transformed belief. There is no fulfilled expectation. There is no real attraction, no correspondence, no control, no concentration, no sustained effort, no well-directed emotion. Without action, there is nothing. But with action, everything is possible. Your life is waiting for you to stand up, to take yourself seriously, to act like the person you say you want to be. I've shared with you 10 of the most powerful mental principles known to man. If this discussion has been valuable to you, if it has sparked a desire to take control of your destiny, then I encourage you to subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share it with someone who also needs to hear this message. And in the comments below, I want you to make a commitment. Write down one action, just one, that you will take in the next 24 hours to apply one of these laws, because your life is waiting for you to act. If you do this today, if you do it now, without waiting for permission, without asking for approval, without excuses, then you will not just be applying this law, you will be embodying it. And when that happens, success will cease to be a possibility. It will become your new reality.